Hello and welcome back to Cairncast. We're back again. I'm Robi.
I'm Hannah.
Here
Hello.
we go. For the people listening on the podcast, we have to try and differentiate Hannah.
Yes.
This is the Hannah that had her own podcast. Supervisor Melville
I was here last week.
was here last week.
Yeah.
Not Hannah, the roaster / QC, head of QC.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. We've cleared the air.
Yeah.
We're back. Our 20-minute timer is starting, and we've got another interesting topic. And the topic this week is: how do you keep a team fully engaged in your workplace culture?
Before we start that, I did want to ask you, if anyone was listening last week about ASMR, what is your ASMR of choice?
Mine.
Yeah. What's your favourite to watch?
I'm very specific.
Oh,
I like ear-to-ear whispers.
okay.
I like tapping as well. But what I really, really like is people being passionate about things.
What?
So like,
What do you mean?
so my ideal ASMR video, and I do search quite often for it, is like someone explaining their favorite Nintendo 64 games. Like that kind of thing where it's like they love, or
That's so weird.
there's a guy who talks a lot about Zelda, and I'm like, that's quite good as well.
Like talking or whispering?
Whispering, yeah.
That's a genre of ASMR?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, whispering's a genre, surely.
Yeah, I know whispering is, but not whispering like about your favourites.
Or like a
Nintendo.
whisper ramble where they're just like,
Okay.
yeah, I went on holiday to Japan, this, that, and the other. I quite like that as well. And it doesn't have to, I don't have to like them, I don't even have to really see them. Well, that does heighten the ASMR, but
That is so funny. I love that.
yeah.
I'm so glad I know that now.
My searched YouTube history the other day that I fell asleep to was a guy presenting his vintage WWF magazines or WWE magazines, like wrestling magazines.
God.
Like,
And that
he
was a good
passionate
one.
about it. Yeah, that was a good one. So yeah,
Maybe you
tapping
should
on
share
an
that.
N64 cartridge. That's a
Oh no, what?
N64 cartridge.
Oh, like
a game.
Nintendo. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Very gaming related. Maybe you should share that.
Do you have a favorite actual person? Creator?
For ASMR?
Yeah.
Well, Trisha Paytas. Trisha Paytas is my favorite.
I'll look it up.
Specifically, don't
I'll
look
do it
up
later.
Trisha.
I'll look it up
yeah,
later when
Trisha Paytas is
Paytas.
an absolute icon of the internet, as anyone. Yes.
Well, does she have a lot of followers on Instagram? I could tag her and see if she'll
She-
accept a collaboration post.
I love her. So like, please feel free. But
I'm the biggest OG of ASMR. I've never heard of it.
So my favourite one is, she has an ASMR channel, but my favourite ones that Trisha Paytas used to do was she would do like her jewellery collection and like show her jewellery collection.
Interesting.
And but I liked the ones where I don't like whispering, I like talking in a low voice. So I like when people are like tapping and like showing something but speaking in a low
I like
voice.
that too.
Whispering's a bit much for me. It makes me feel a bit weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah.
Which I guess maybe is the point,
The whole
but
thing is very weird.
I don't
There's an
feel good.
undercurrent
It
of
doesn't.
weird.
It doesn't make me feel good in weird in like a good way. It makes me like, oh, I don't like the whispering. So talking in a low voice and then tapping with like a jewelry collection. There is a specific Trisha Paytas video that.
If someone caught me watching ASMR, I would die.
Well, there's nothing.
Oh my god!
I have a friend that watches back scratching ASMR to get to sleep.
I was about to. We're all going to mass tangent again. I was about
I know,
to say,
but it's funny,
like
so.
massaging. Like, so I don't want to see people getting massaged or anything
Oh,
like that.
it's so funny
Or
and weird.
barbershop role plays. No, I don't need that.
Role playing is just
the
weird.
sound of scissors being scissored. No, not for me. Okay, anyway, let's get back to fully engaged in workplace culture. Here's some ideas. Clarity around your mission.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that's something that we've put a lot of emphasis on in the last year.
Definitely.
I don't know how much or little that has impacted the kind of engagement of our team. I feel like it would be sensical to me that if you're communicating a kind of clear brief of these are the things that are important to us, that would be quite a positive thing. Is that something that you feel resonates in the team? Do you think people know what's important to us?
Yeah, I think end of last year you conducted a meeting with all of the. I mean, it was company wide. It wasn't just Melville, but and we went through like the company culture and mission and everything, and like everyone after that, I thought everyone responded really positively to it. And I personally did as well. I felt quite inspired afterwards. I don't know. It was really nice, I think, as a team to kind of like collectively come together and feel, I think something that you did really well in that was be really thankful and grateful for everyone's work while also reinforcing what we're aiming to do together.
Yeah.
And I think that gives people a sense of like, cool, I know what's being expected of me, but I'm also being acknowledged for the work that I've done. And that's something I really like that. I think being acknowledged is incredibly important, but I think also knowing what the person who's, running the business actually wants, what's a priority to them, that allows you to kind of go to work with a sense of purpose, I think. For sure.
Definitely. But some of these things is quite interesting because I feel, and like I don't really know on the other businesses, but sometimes when I'm trying to implement like this kind of like vision and values or whatever you would call it, it feels a little bit corporate, and it's what you'd expect bigger companies have. A very clean, like a lot of clarity around this stuff. I don't know the experience other people have had in other cafes. I wonder how much like culture is defined, or we've put a lot of emphasis on it because the business was kind of growing bigger, and we started to realize that there's someone here that's maybe not even met me, and it's like, well, how do they know what's important? So I think we wanted to have like a kind of reference sheet almost of it. Have you worked in any other businesses where they've been quite clear on like kind of the vision and the values?
Yeah, so at Proud Mary again, they do a really thorough induction when you start, where you actually sit down and it's basically like a half day of training, essentially. And that kind of gives you from the get-go, before you even start the job, a really clear understanding of what the priorities are and what's being expected of you and how the business is run. So I think similarly, like us having those meetings or us having those things set out, I think the more clarity, not just with the mission, but in terms of what priorities are, is given to people, I think it allows people to do their jobs in an easier way without, because if you don't give people that clarity, they, in certain decision-making situations, might not necessarily know the best way to go forward because it's just not been made clear to them how it should be handled. Whereas I think that is clear when you do that. So
I think one of the things we want to try and encourage, I suppose, in our team is like that autonomy to be able to make decisions themselves. And I guess to that reference, it's like, well, then they need to know like what's the framework for having responsibility for shaping a customer's experience or whatever. So like we say, part of the chat we had was around one of our pillars. Our pillars, to be transparent with our listeners, are positivity, progressiveness, and kindness without reservation. And I think the last one there, kindness without reservation, was it's like if someone drops a drink on the way out of the shop, it's like, I want you guys to know that I want to empower you to be able to actually just go and replace that drink, and that I'm fine with that. And I think that's where,
which is actually really good to know, because it means when you start a new job, if you're not given that guidance, you don't really know what the standard is and whether that's something that the business owner or whoever's running the show wants you to do.
So then you carry through the culture from where you worked before.
Exactly. I think also beyond that, it also means that when there are situations where you have to make decisions, like say an order was forgotten or somebody has to wait too long for something because a mistake was made, knowing that we can give them something on the house, or trying to making the situation better by doing certain things, that's something that we know we can do because we know what the standard is and what the goal is, really. So
I guess going down a slight rabbit hole on that, which is not really in relation to workplace culture, but I kind of is. We were talking off air about how the things you can do, or the way you should treat people, is trying to assume that they could become a regular. And it's like, I've heard other podcasts talk about the lifetime value of a customer. And I think it's, I guess, the reason because if you listen to a podcast now, I was saying like, if that happens, and you get free coffee. It's like, obviously we're a business, but we are trying to be understanding to the fact that actually doing these things where it's, being kind without reservation can actually impact the business in a way that people will then come back every day because they've had a positive experience.
Definitely.
And potentially will tell their friends. You're always like only going to really tell someone about somewhere you've been if it was terrible, or it was someone did something exceptional.
Yeah.
And I think we hold quite high expectations, but we want all of our team to be doing peppering in flashes of exceptional service in their day. And I think that's, I guess, where that comes from. I think that it hopefully makes them feel positive as well, to be able to know they can do that.
I think so. I think it does. I think giving people agency to know that this is not just with service, but things like suggesting ideas or knowing that like management is open to feedback and open to their input gives people a sense of like purpose in their job. I keep talking about purpose, but I think that is important. I also think, like, just to shout out Birdie, someone who works at Melville, but the other day I came and he was like, I was thinking we could stamp these cards and like write little notes on them to put in with the takeaway orders. And I was like, that's so good. Like, it's such a nice touch though, but it is something that, like, you know, he's thought of because he really cares about service, and he also knows that like that's something that is absolutely in line with how we would want to operate. Yeah. And he has the freedom to know that those ideas are going to be welcome. You know, so
that's cool.
Yeah, shout out to Birdie.
Shout out to Birdie. we got an incredible email around Christmas time from one of our regulars. I don't know, it was like one of those ones that you kind of like. There's not many times I really take a step back to kind of reflect on like the environment that you guys have created, but it was one of those like slightly teary-eye moments where I was like, "Fuck, we're doing something here. We're actually, you know, people are recognizing the work that's going in, and it's quite hard to always see that. You know, you see the shit that's broken, or you see the fact we've had a slower day, and you know whatever it is. But I think overwhelmingly the feedback we're receiving has been positive, and I think you know that can only really happen when you have a positive workspace culture. And I think you know there's like tons and tons of workplaces out there, in coffee especially, and in hospitality especially, that are relatively toxic, or it's like not a great environment, and it's hard to do your best work. And it's, I think it's something we've talked a lot about over the past few months more, which Anna has been really doing great work with, and I know you've been involved even like was it today or yesterday. There's these like feedback and trying to do focus forms to try and get that recognition from the team, like how do you feel you're doing, but also how do you think we're doing. And it's like it's very easy for leadership or whatever to be sitting out with the domain that they a cafe environment especially, and not maybe have a good enough feedback loop.
Yeah.
Like how important do you think the feedback loop is for that kind of engagement for the team? I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think having done those, I've never actually participated in those before in a hospitality context, and I think that it's incredibly, because something that's really important to me is like the relationships that I have with the rest of the team, mostly because I just love everyone that works there, and I think we have an incredibly good team. But I think having that opportunity to sit down outside of service and like in a quiet area where you actually can just sit down and have a chat, that gives everyone an opportunity to be heard and to like have a productive conversation. Because I just think during service, it's like you're always distracted by something, or the tensions are running high because service can be stressful. So I think those are like, from what I've experienced, incredibly valuable and helpful, I think, for everyone, and just allows you to kind of feel like you're moving forward and making sure everyone's feeling positive about work. So
I think also, like, I guess part of the purpose is it forces you to engage with your feelings almost. And like it's quite easy just to like be like, oh fuck it, everything will be all right. But actually when you're given the platform maybe to be, you know, if someone's actually specifically saying what's not all right, then it's like, oh well, I'm not gonna lie, you know, but it's harder to pull someone aside and be like, this is not great. Whilst, you know, I guess it's all just about, presenting the opportunity is quite important. I always think when you're in the cafe environment, it's so easy for me, probably specifically, to come into the cafe and be like, that's dirty, that's not great. It's like, but it's way harder when you're in it. Like, you know, it's because you're just fully absorbed in everything, and it's like it's hard to actually like take a breath and step outside and come back in and see things directly. When you come in with fresh eyes, it's easy. And I guess that's an example. It's like, sometimes you do need to take a step back and like actually analyze like how you're feeling, or like how you think the team's doing, how you think the leadership team is doing, all this stuff.
I think it's like missing the forest for the trees kind of thing.
Yeah, massive.
Like when you're in the trenches, which is like if it's the thick of service, you kind of have to have your brains. I mean, hospitality, obviously you're thinking about 1 million things at once. But I think when you're in it, it's sort of hard to take a step back and look at things from a broader perspective, seeing the bigger picture. And when you're able to do that, I think that's like positive for everyone. So,
do you think that, so I guess on the caveat to that is, being cruel to be kind, and like if you ever have to give negative feedback, like how do you deliver that in a way which doesn't disengage like a team member from your workplace?
I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I mean, I think just always I try to always be very like, try to approach things with a way of people knowing that they're appreciated and that it's not personal, or it's not something that's like, it's not never like a slight against someone personally, but just something that's going to help make everything easier for everyone.
Transparency is always a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. But again, like it's not, I don't know, it's not, that's something that I kind of, I'm still always grappling with. And I think being a manager, that's always something that's the hardest thing to probably do, is nobody wants to be negative towards people. It's like, it's not fun. So I guess something I was going to say is like always trying to acknowledge when things are done well, and always try to acknowledge people's positive input, because I think that means if people know how appreciated they are and what they do well, then hopefully that means that when there are negative things or negative feedback, there is negative feedback to be given, it's cushioned by the fact that there is also an acknowledgement that things are things are doing well.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
That is such a common thing, I feel like, in management, where you get flagged for things you're doing badly. It's naturally, those are usually the things that stand out.
It's like, what is it? Not confirmation bias, but like, is it that what it is? Where everyone always like, you always notice negative things before you notice positive things, and negative things always will outweigh positives, which is just how our brains work as human beings. But
recognizing people for doing good work is very important. How about extracurricular? Like,
I think that's so important.
We haven't really done enough, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's something I feel like we've spoken about it, about continuing to do that stuff, because I think we did our karaoke night for the Christmas party, and it was just so fun, and everyone, I just think it makes everyone feel really connected to each other, and it allows you to socialize in a way that, again, taking everyone out of service and putting people in a situation that's actually just genuinely fun is such a good thing to do.
I've said widely that I'm like, I want to do that more, but I kind of want someone to take ownership over that. I'm like, we need a social chair. I tried to make Mark a social chair before, because I was like, that guy likes to go
I don't know if Mark wants to be a social chair.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
love you, Mark, but I don't know if he...
I know. He's too
I
busy
think
being
if Mark
sociable.
was the social chair, I just think every event would be at Kitty's.
That's all right. I've been going to Kitty's for about 15 years.
I think everyone... I mean, look, Kitty's is great,
Kitty's.
but it would just be everything. We'd be playing darts at Kitty's.
Yeah.
Every social event.
That's all right as well. We had a staff...
all right, well, let's just do that.
we had a Bonningwell staff catch-up one evening at the Flight Club.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't play darts. It was literally like a place you go to play darts, and we had a beer instead. But it was really cool. I think we could do that. I think that probably, just talking about engaging with like a culture, I think like that probably is, sometimes you need to alleviate the pressure valve.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think, it almost acts as a bit of a hard reset sometimes to see someone outside of work, have a beer. Like, it's not necessarily the place you want to unpick issues, but it sometimes puts context, and like you're like, oh, I can see that you've got the best interests of the team or whatever. It's not that I'm saying that engagement with the workplace culture is trying to find who's negative. It's more a case of how to keep people on board, and I think everyone is different. This the challenging thing with managing people is everyone has different needs and different expectations. But I think everyone, generally speaking, responds well to being taken out for a pint.
Definitely.
Unless they don't drink. But in
I
which
think-
case we're going to play darts.
Yeah, but I mean, I've stopped drinking, and like every time we've gone and done, I think if you do an activity, like we went into karaoke, and it was still. I mean, obviously, just love getting on the mic. So.
It so happens you're basically a world professional singer as well as a podcaster. Yeah.
Yeah, do they want me to sing right now? Just kidding. But yeah, I think like it's definitely. I think anytime you're able to just take people out of service so they can hang out apart from it, just it's like allows people to see bigger picture.
Yeah.
So
But I guess in a business like.
Oh. That's the timer.
In a business like ours where we are now spread out across 3 locations. Mm-hmm. We were more locations last year. There are times, it's quite easy for someone to enter the business and not meet you if they work at Bonnie Wild or not meet Kate if they work at, So I think that's important as well, to get a full scope of the people that are within the organisation. Mm-hmm. Kind of helps put context around, like they want to be informed, they want to know what's what, and I think that's something we can definitely get better at and foster that community. Yeah,
I think community cool. that makes people really not just engage in the workplace culture, but I think it makes people enjoy their job more. I think it just makes people more purposeful in the way that they do their work and stuff, because you feel like you're kind of part of this camaraderie. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely something we could.
Nice.
Always striving for improvement.
Always striving for improvement. Yeah, I think as soon as you think you're perfect, you're basically dead. So yeah. That was the timer. So by the rules of the podcast, that is the end of the podcast.
Comment below what your favorite ASMR genre is.
And why it's Gibby ASMR.
Yeah.
Also retro ASMR, where like when they're talking about like Pogs or something, or like Pokemon cards or something. Do you know what Pog is? No, definitely not.
I don't know what that is.
So that was us talking about how you keep a team fully engaged in workplace culture, or picking apart how sometimes we're not doing that, or sometimes we are. It's a never-ending cycle of trying to work out, how we can set up for success in that department.
Maybe you should do the next episode as ASMR. Maybe you should whisper the next episode.
Maybe I will.
Maybe you need to make the next episode ASMR. Jack is shaking his head.
Maybe I could tap on these nice new mugs that are available.
I'll get nails done and I'll come in and do some jewelry sorting.
Comment the ASMR thing, or also if you would rather keep it on brand, comment on how you think businesses can keep their staff engaged in their culture and what they're about. Does your place of work have a charter or culture charter or a vision and values? Like, I don't know how open that is or how common that is. So let us know. But thank you for listening, and let us know if you want Hannah back on the pod as well. Or the other Hannah. Let us know who you want. Maybe Cam. Maybe Charles.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we'll get a guy on board. Maybe Jack. Maybe you. Maybe you if you're listening.
I think Birdie would definitely come on.
Do some external to Cairngorm guests too, which would be quite cool.
Cool.
There was one in the pipeline. We're wrapping up. Thanks for watching.
Okay, bye.